Are you looking to stay informed about what's going on in Madison without the media spin? Well, here's the latest news from the Wisconsin Assembly Chambers brought right into your home. Directly from the office of your representative, who truly values his constituents' feedback and in always working hard on the issues that matter to you. Welcome to the Ramthun Report.
Hello, fellow patriots. We are here in Speakers Hall, and we are pleased to let you know that the Capitol is finally open to the public again. Welcome to our 14th episode, where we plan to teach you a little more about how things work in Madison and why it's important to you. We also want to give a huge shout out to congratulate Quinn Meinertz, the Hartford Union grad that was drafted by the Denver Broncos this week. He certainly makes Hartford proud. Congratulations, Quinn, on your huge achievement. We look forward to seeing those big blocks that you make in the NFL. This week's hot topics include an explanation how the bill process works in Wisconsin to help you better understand why it's vital that we address the governor's vetoes. An update on Representative Ramthun's push for congressional term limits with a clip from Tuesday's executive hearing on the AJR 16. And we end with a quick message on why we are saving our Ramthun Request for next week. We are getting many requests about critical race theory, and we plan to dig deeper on that issue in our next episode. As always, don't forget to make your Ramthun request by following the link in the descriptions so we can bring your issues to the table. First, Jared and Representative Ramthun explain the process behind what it takes for a bill to travel through the building and reach the governor's desk. We feel it's important you understand how much work it takes to turn your concerns into legislation and why that matters.
Hello everybody, Take Team coming at you today. I've got Jared Heckman with me. I'd like to take a couple of minutes to talk about why I'm very frustrated with the executive branch of our state government right now, why the vetoes that occurred last week and the prior week are so important to you. And I think in order to get a better understanding and appreciation for why it's concerning, it should be concerning to you, is to know how the process works to get the bills to the desk of the governor. Jared came along today to talk a little bit about the sequence of process from the inception of the idea of a bill to actually getting past the legislative floor sessions, plural, to the governor's desk. So Jared, why don't you talk about that flow, please?
Sure. So there's a lot of work that happens behind the scenes for progressing any piece of legislation through the legislature. Now, as we know, there's the Assembly and there's the Senate. And this process has to happen twice, one time in each house. So what happens initially is there's an idea for a bill. And the legislator or staff will get in contact with the Legislative Reference Bureau in order to draft up the language. They're the lawyers that work for the legislature that are experts in the whole legalese, and they'll make sure to format it in a way that is correct. And then they'll send it to us, we'll review it, and say, yep, that's pretty much what we want to go for. And once we get to that stage, we send out a bill for co-sponsorship. And what co-sponsorship is basically an office, the author is selling the idea of the bill to their colleagues. And you'll get representatives and senators who say, yeah, I'm a fan of that idea. I want to put my name on this bill as a sponsor, and just kind of lending their support to that. And then once we get to that phase, the bill is submitted and it's assigned to a committee. Once it gets assigned to the committee chairman will call a public hearing on the bill where you have the authors will testify, and any interested stakeholders or members from the public can testify for and against. Now, following the public hearing, the committee will hold what's called an executive session. And during an executive session, the members of the committee will vote either to recommend passage or vote to not recommend passage. Once you get recommended for passage out of a committee, it goes to the floor as a whole. That's where you have the entire Assembly or the entire Senate voting to either pass or strike down a bill. Now, like I mentioned earlier, this process has to happen twice, once in each house. So that goes through the Assembly, it goes through the Senate, they pass the exact same language for the bill, and then it gets sent to the governor's desk. And once it's at the governor's desk, he can either sign it into law or veto it.
The companion bill element for the Senate and the Assembly is whoever goes into session first and passes their respective bill type, that's the lead bill that gets to the governor's desk. So even though the assembly, like in my case, I could have a bill created and I could lead on it and it could be the first one out of the gate, if the Senate meets first and moves to approve, they message it over to the assembly, and all the assembly does is vote to concur. So then the lead bill becomes the Senate version, not the assembly version. So the thing I want to talk at too is the effect of the hearings. You got informational hearings where the chair can invite subject matter experts to come in to help debrief the committee members on the depth of points of issue regarding the bill and its merits, perhaps the elements it touches, the effect it will have. Then you have your public hearing, and that's when everybody can come in from anywhere in the state. And it really bothers me because when people go out of their way to come down here to testify for a bill or against, they're taking massive amount of time and expense out of their day and their time to come and do that. So they're part of the process, the civic duty of an engagement of legislation through this building. And that combined with the merit of the bills, that we had 17 of the 47 that have reached the governor's desk have been vetoed within the past couple of weeks. The merit of the bills is strong. The purpose of the bill is to help the state, to help the people of the state, to do good things, to do right things. And he negates all of that work, that effort, that time, the expense, the merit of the bill. It's all negated because he says he's not working with the GOP, he's out talking to the people. Well, that's crap, because we talk to the people and we know what they're looking for, and they come in and they testify in support of these bills, and then he vetoes them. So this thing about the effect of the veto is pretty deep. It affects the process, but even more so, in a damaging way, it affects what could have been for the people of Wisconsin. And that's why I'm so infuriated about what's going on in our executive branch right now. This needs to end. And you know, I'm kind of like, let's just not pass anything. Let's not send him any bills. Let's let the spigot dry up and let's just sit around and watch paint dry. We got to do something different, because, you know, to send bills to him for him to veto just to show, well, we tried and he said no. So remember that in 2022 when you vote for governor. That's all optics. I would rather focus on, I know we need that. Okay, we got to separate who's for the people and who's not. But I also want to get things done, because time's not a friend for any of us. So this whole thing is rather frustrating. I think the only solution we have is to have personnel change. And one particular office in question comes to mind, and if we can get a change there, you're going to see throughput results and things get done when you have right person, right role, right time. And right now, we have too many situations where we don't have that. So that's it. Anything else to add there, sir?
No, you put a nice bow on that.
Thanks all. Have a good time, a good day rather, and thanks for your time. Bye now.
Thank you.
Now that you understand a little bit more about how much effort goes into the checks and balances of getting fair legislation all the way to the governor, we hope you see why it's so frustrating when we see him veto the will of the people. You need to recognize when he vetoes the legislature's efforts, he's also vetoing you. We need to be able to show the people that the real solution to all of our problems is to replace the executive administration in 2022. Speaking of replacing the problems, here is a clip of the Constitution and Ethics Committee's executive hearing on the AJR 16, the resolution Representative Ramthun authored that seeks to put term limits on Congress.
Status quo and learned behavior must be addressed. I used to believe that elections were the term limit mechanism. I don't believe that anymore, because the status quo and the learned behavior and the money and the in-the-seat influence overrides some of the common sense that should be taking place. It doesn't happen that way. So there's a value here that I know in time we'll see when we start having movement of personnel. You're going to find diamonds in the rough. You're going to find franchise players. Congress refuses to obey its own rules. It refuses to pass a balanced budget. It refuses to read fully the bills they pass on our behalf. If not now, when? The vote is green. Thank you, sir.
It is great news that this resolution passed in the Executive Committee, and we look forward to seeing it go to the Assembly floor for a vote. It is very clear that Representative Ramthun is doing all that he can to fight for a government of, for, and by the people. Lastly, we plan to answer this week's Ramthun request from Kate and Campbellsport about critical race theory in next week's episode. There's been a lot of developments on this very hot issue this week, and we are preparing to take the fight against indoctrination to the next level. We want you to know that there are many things in motion that are going to come together next week. As Representative Ramthun would say, stay tuned for coming attractions. This concludes our 14th episode of the Ramthun Report. Don't forget to check the links below and make a Ramthun request. Remember to share this content with as many of your fellow patriots as possible, because together we can truly restore the principles of a government of, for, and by the people. We'll see you next week. God bless you and yours always.